Okay. So now I'm going to teach you about the ratios. Trust me when I say it's not that much of a complicated thing to do. Maybe without wasting much of our precious time, we will just start off with example number 1, where they can say, write the ratio 3:9, and then in the end they say in a simplest form. Maybe you might be wondering, what does it mean to write something in its simplest form? Maybe let's start here and say, when you have 4 over 2 or 4 divided by 2, this thing can be written in its simplest form. We do know very well from primary that 4 over 2 is 2. So that means this thing and that, it's exactly the same thing. This one is the simplest form of that. It's like having 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. It looks like it's a long thing, of which you might be required to rewrite it in its simplest form. So that means its simplest form would be 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. It should be equals to 4. So it is still the same thing, but in its simplest form. But now let's talk about the ratios, where they say write 3:9 in its simplest form. Remember, that is 2. Again, this thing is the same as 3 over 9. This thing is the same as 3 per 9. It refers to one and the same thing. When it is written in this format, that's when we say 3 is to that. So to write it in its simplest form without having to confuse you much about the highest common factor and all of that, you can simply just divide 3 by 3, 9 by 3, because it is 3 that goes into 3 and again it goes into 9. So when we say the highest common factor, it is that highest number that goes into 2 of these things. So you will remember that if you say 3 divided by 3, it will give you 1. Therefore, it is 2. 9 divided by 3, it will therefore give you 3. So that is why the final answer, you'll find it as 3. To verify on your calculator, you just say 3 over 9, and it does give you 1 over 3. So on your calculator, you punch it like this, but when you write it down, you will write it down as 1:3, the same way it was presented to you. So that means even if you are having 12 is to 18, for example, the highest common factor or the highest number that goes into 12 and again it goes into 18, it is 6. So that's why you will say 12 divided by 6, and again even this 18 you divide it by 6, and then if you say 12 divided by 6, it gives you 2. 18 divided by 6, it gives you 3, and that is the simplest form of that given ratio. Otherwise, if you punch it on your calculator, you will just punch it as 12 over 18. Let's see, you say 12 over 18. If it gives you a decimal on your calculator, let's say from the bottom you have that A and S, which is for answer, you have the plus sign, you have multiplication, you have del, and then you have that SD. If you click on that SD thing, it is the one that converts from decimal to fraction. So if it gives you as a decimal, maybe 0, something something, you press that button, which is like that. For SD, it will convert it into a fraction of 2 over 3. So you must be having a calculator that has those fraction things. It could be Casio or Sharp. Okay, then it's fine. Example number 3. Just find another problem that we can do there. Okay, even if you are given 5 is to 20, you can still write it in its simplest form, where you can think of the highest common factor, or that number that goes into 5 and it also goes into 20. It is 5. Yes, the highest is 5. So that means you'll say 5 being this 5 divided by 5, then it gives you 1. And then you say, excuse me, that 20, you divide it by 5, and then it gives you 4. That is the end of it. Otherwise, on your calculator, you punch it as 5 over 20, it will definitely give you that. That's what you are looking for. You just score yourself 1 mark for that. So again, they can try to bring some English there and say express 8 to 32 as a ratio. So doesn't really matter that much as long as they say this to that. They are simply saying this to that. That's all that they are saying. But because now you have learned that these things can be written in their simplest form, you don't leave it there. You can think of that highest number that goes into 8 and 32. I think it's 8. Yes, because if you say 8 divided by 8, it does give you a 1. What am I writing there? It gives you 1, and then into 32. 32 divided by 8, it goes 4 times. So that means it ends as that. Otherwise, you punch it on a calculator as that, it will definitely give you that. Okay, so then it's fine. Let's look at number 5, where for number 5 you can still be required to simplify what? Let's say that is to that. So again, even if you say 14 over 21 on your calculator, it should give you 2 is to 3. It's all about you having to work it out correctly and also presenting it correctly. So now let's look at another example, an interesting one, where now they say divide 120 in the ratio 2 is to 3. Okay, you've got 2 parts. The first part being that one and the second part being that one. So you have to now add the ratio parts. So that means you will need to say 2, you plus it with that 3, and that will be equals to what? It should be equals to 5 parts. This is your first step. That means if maybe there was again something there which could be 4 and even more, you would get a total of all of them. I hope that part makes sense, but let's limit it to what we are given there. Then it means we have 5 parts over there. So now what you need to do, it is to therefore allocate that money according to the parts. So how I would do it, it's either you can start with the money or you start with those parts, but otherwise it's better to just say you see that 120, we will multiply it by 2 over 5. The answer that we get, it is the money for that first part. So that means 120 that you multiply it by that 2 over 5, it gives us 48 rands. And then again you do the same calculation but for the second part, which is that 3 over, it will always be over total. What is the money? Let's see, 120 that you multiply this time around by 3 over 5, that is equals to 72 rands. Yes. So the question is, how are you going to know that you have done it correctly? That's if you take this money, you plus it with that money, it takes you there. If it takes you there, then you've done it correctly. That's how you know. So if you say 48 rands, you plus it by 72 rands, then it takes you back to 120 rands. It's like you take 48 rand, you give it to the boys, and then you take 72 rands, you give it to the girls. So the money that you gave to the boys, it has to be equals to the original if you add it to the money that you gave it to the girls. So that's how you would work it out. Maybe what I meant with that other one, where you had too many things there. Maybe let's say if you had that 120 and then now you have to divide that 120 in the ratio of, let's say, 2:3 again, if maybe there was 1 there. What I meant was you would have to add 2 plus 3 plus 1, and then it gives you, what is that? It would be 6 parts. Then it means when you do your calculations, you will say 120 rands, you multiply it by 2 out of 6, you get the answer there. And then again, you perform that same calculation, you multiply this time around by that over 6, you get that. Then again, you do that one, it will be 1 out of 6, and then you get that money. For you to know that you have done it correctly, that's if when you take this money, you add it with that, you add it with that, it takes you back to 120 rands. So that's what I meant when I was saying, even if you are given some more there, you just need to first add all of those, and then you work it out in that way. So it's like, if you have 2, you will do 2 calculations. If you have 3, you will do those 3 calculations. As long as in the end, if you add them, they take you back to that original value. Okay, that was example number 6. Okay, maybe let's do another example, and let's say this one is example number what example number would this be? Okay, 7. Yes. Okay, so now they say divide 30 sweets. Divide 30 sweets in the ratio 1:2. I think this one is straightforward. I think this one is straightforward. So you will take this ratio part and add it with that one, and say that part 1, you plus it with part 2, it gives you 3 parts. Can you see now? Then what do you do from there? You can still say 30 sweets, you multiply it by that 1 out of 3, and then what answer are you getting there? 30 multiplied by 1 over 3, it gives you 10 sweets. Okay, and then again you'll say 30 multiplied by not 1 but 2 out of 3, and then it gives you, just go there, cancel the 1 and then put 2 there, and then it gives you 20 sweets. How are you going to know that you've done it correctly? That's if you add these 2 values, they take you back to that number over there. That's how you know that, okay, I have done it correctly. Another example, I'm just trying to think of an example of which okay, then it's fine. Maybe let's do this one where they say, now they come with a different weight and they say share this 500 in the ratio 3:2. Okay, again it has to be the same calculation, where you can still say, okay, I'm going to add those parts, where you will say that 3, you plus it with a 2, and then it gives you 5. Okay, then this is 5 parts. We'll give you a mark F. That will be allocated a mark, and then we'll say 500. That 500, we will therefore multiply it by, it will definitely be the first part being 3 out of 5. What are we getting there? So it's 500 that we multiplied by 3 out of 5, and then we get 300 rands. Be careful to make sure that it is 300 rands because we are dealing with money there. We don't want a situation where you take 500 but you just give us numbers and you don't give us it. You don't give it to us back in the form of money. Okay, then it's fine. Then it means now you will do the calculation for that one of 2 being the second, then it's 200. So what I'm saying is don't just write 200 there. Write it as 200 rands because it is the money that you have to share. How come they give you 500 to share it and you share it as just 200 and not 200 rands? It has to be with that unit so that I can fill it that you just gave me. Okay, how will I know that I've done it correctly? That's if you add these two, it takes you back to that original money. Then we know that there was no corruption there. We don't want a situation where we want to add those monies and then there is some money which is missing there. Nope. Otherwise, we are going to call a commission of inquiry and you will have to account on that. I think we have covered enough. Yes, I think so. I think we've covered enough. I think we've covered enough. Did we? Yes, I think so. Okay, for that reason, I will leave it here and say until